my quantitative scores were quite low, yet I still got in. So for context, I did go to Harvard and I graduated from there 2 years ago. We're going to go over the scores I got on the different subsections today. So I did all right on the academics. I'm not really surprised about the 2-. So if you don't know, it is scored, at least Harvard does it from a 1 to, I think it's a 6, but 6 is like you didn't submit anything. Most people get between a 1 and I think a 3- or a 4. I'm not surprised I got a 2- because when I was in high school, I didn't do Calc BC, I did Calc AB, I also did Physics C. My SAT was a 1550, I think. I don't even remember anymore. Which is like, this is all fine. My GPA was like a 3.9. I don't know. My school didn't do weighted. It was on the higher side for my school, but like nothing crazy. You know what I mean? So I'm not really surprised about the 2- there, which again, so 2- would be here. And you can think about this as an A, B, C, D, E kind, or F, I guess. So a minus means that you're in between 2 and 3. Something that's important to know is that Harvard even puts on their thing that 2 is a likely admit and 3 is a likely reject. So the difference between 2- and 3+ is actually quite large. And something that I like to focus on with my students is what makes a 2- instead of a 3+, because this is really the gap we're worried about. If you're a normal applying student, you're never going to be a 1. You're probably never going to be a 6 either. You're going to be somewhere in here. So it's just a matter of putting you here or here rather than here, if that makes sense. So again, 3 means likely reject, 2 means likely admit. So my academics, they thought were good enough that I should be admitted and considered. Extracurricular though, quite low. So what's going on here? One is that I had no awards or anything crazy. The other thing is that I had a big service project I spent like 500 or 600 hours on, and it was a pretty big deal, but it was just local. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it still worked out for me. However, it's still local. It's not international. It wasn't even national, and they're really big on that. I explain this in how to choose good extracurricular activities for yourselves in one of my other videos, but essentially you want to look at international or national awards or competitions, whatever. I didn't do any of that just because I was really checked out in high school and I just like did not have that much time to be thinking about this stuff. So I only did local, which is probably why it was so low. So I wrote academic here. I meant athletic, and I got a failing score on that. But everybody who applies gets a failing score unless you are applying as a recruited athlete, and the Harvard admissions portfolio packet that all the readers read before they score even says this is not a negative. This is not anything other than it lets the admissions committee know that I was not a recruited athlete. So now we're getting to my character and personal score. So when I read my notes later, and I'll get to this when we talk about the interview, my personal score essentially is what got me in. I was kind of on the fence as an applicant before my personality score. So this was informed 1 by my essay, or my essays, 2 by my recommendations, and then 3 is the interview. So here, you can't see how they changed the score before or after the interview, but all I know is that my note even said after this, like, oh, personality seems good, but we're not sure what the personality is. So the interview was what dictated this score. I'm going to get to that a bit more with the interview, but basically I got a really good score on my interview, so it boosted my personal score. I'd like to point something out to everyone watching, which is, as you can see, this sheet was very humbling because when you get into Harvard, you think, wow, I really was the cream of the crop, right? That's why I got in, because I really deserved it. And then you look at this, and what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a 2, and I'm seeing a 3. I'm seeing a 2-. You know, I don't know what more I could have done other than Calc BC to get a higher academic score, realistically speaking. You know, I don't know what I could have done other than spend 700 hours to get something, but that was better than a 3. So my point is that I really was not the perfect student. A lot of people that get into these schools are not perfect students. So I don't want you to be holding yourself to a perfect standard, because literally the admitted students are not even perfect to their expectations. So try not to worry about that, because again, I got in and I was not perfect. So just remember that when you're applying. So again, we're going to go to the summary notes. So your application gets 2 rounds of notes. So here, this is where all the numbers go. And then here they have 2 boxes for notes, at least at Harvard. Here's like the preliminary. I think they spend 5 minutes looking at it and they briefly read through. And then they give you, basically they decide, are we going to even read this or will it continue? Mine was passed on. It basically said merits further consideration. So, by the way, I realized the first section here, this is where your test score would be used to kind of lob you off. Essentially. So if you got like a 13, 20, very good score, just probably not good enough for Harvard unless you have something that's really going for you in another category. So this would be where that's evaluated. Usually 1 or 2 people check this round, but essentially this is where a score would be used to either keep you out or in. So round 2 is a more in-depth review. They read your essays a little more thoroughly. They look at the scores that the first person gave you, they adjust them slightly, and then they write the note. So this is the note that I got that said basically, oh, they look really good, whatever, blah, 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 but we need to see how the interview goes because they're kind of on the fence when it comes to the personality score. Honestly, I would suspect that before this, I was probably at a 3, which would give me 2 3s and 1 2, which again, the 2 is the likely admit, the 3 is the likely reject. So this would give me more likely rejects than likely admits. However, the interview changed that around for me, which now let's talk about that. So a lot of people kind of discount the interview, and you can look at I encourage you to Google this. Please go look at the common data set for any school you're applying to. They tell you if they count the interview or not. I didn't check this because I didn't know what any of this was when I was applying, but Harvard does really check the interview, which is good. Some other schools I got, so just so you know, I didn't get into Yale or Princeton. I got into Harvard, and then I got into every other school I applied to, but I didn't get into these two. I don't think they consider the interview. So again, you're looking at this, right? I really think my personality score is what got me in. It was kind of ironic because I think a lot of people find me really annoying. So, funny that. But anyway, another point about round 2 that I want to talk about is that they mentioned in that comment that I had one of the longest letters of recommendation written by my school ever, which is interesting because actually college Chingu lore, I really hated my high school and I did not get along with the administration. Oopsie daisy. However, I really got along with my college counselor. He really loved me. We really got along. I just got really lucky with that, and I think he wrote me a really good letter, which is part of what merited an interview. Because again, reading the notes, I'm not even sure they would have given me one. Which, again, as I say, this was a very humbling day for me. And you know what's even more humbling? Sharing this with all my new subscribers, all my old subscribers, and anyone who might be joining me moving forward. Yeah, a bit humbling. So it really takes a village, I guess is my point. So this is something I talked about a little bit in the last video, just about the idea of emotional intelligence and being able to show that. I actually, at the very end of the portfolio, they add your interview notes. So I was able to read my interview notes. And here's some more Chingu lore for you. Chingu lore, which is, I think one of the only reasons that I got such a high score in my interview was that my interviewer kind of said something really wild to me when I arrived at the interview. So I don't really know why she said this to me. I think it's one of those moments that you say something and it's too late to unsay it. But basically, I went into the Starbucks that we were meeting at and she was sitting there and I saw her and I ordered a drink and then I came over. I said, "Oh, hi, are you such and such?" And she was like, "Hi, it's nice to meet you." And just for context, I kind of look like this. So my hair is short and I'm not skinny or anything, but I'm kind of lanky. Basically, it's very difficult to tell what gender I am by just looking at me, which is, kind of part of the design. So basically what had happened was I went over to her and I said, "Oh, hi, I am Chingu. It's nice to meet you." And she said, "Oh, hi. I'm so sorry I didn't approach you earlier. I wasn't sure what gender you were, so it was making it difficult for me to call out to get your attention." Which is fine. And again, luckily this does not bother me. I think maybe to somebody else it would. But anyway, so the point is she wrote in my note that basically I did a really good job telling her that it was fun and that it happened to me all the time. And she said, "Oh, this person showed a lot of emotional intelligence that I think would make them a very good asset to our alumni pool, blah, blah, blah." So again, social and emotional intelligence is important here. And again, what she pitched it as, which was very beneficial to me, was she told them that it was an asset to the alumni community to have somebody like me there because she thought I was very professional at a young age to be able to handle an awkward situation like that. So now we're going to jump to the biggest takeaways here. 1 is to always be on the same page as your recommenders, including your college counselor. So again, I was highly considered because of the strength of the letter from my school. I don't know. I think my other recommendations were very normal. No one ever talked about them. It was mostly the college counselor. Something to consider here is that when you ask your recommenders for for letters of recommendations, you can even tell them what you want, essentially. Nothing too specific, but you can tell them, "Just so you know, I really enjoyed project, Food Fest where I worked on food genes and editing and, whatever." You tell them, "Oh, I'm going to write about that in my supplemental essays, so it would be very helpful for me if as a teacher you could give your perspective on that." You can also, and this is something you might want to, your college counselor will probably know how to do this, but just in case, you could tell them is, oh, just so you know, I'm trying to highlight throughout my application that I'm really loyal or something. That's not really something I would highlight, but just for example, or I don't know, intellectually curious. You can tell them, so hopefully they'll write about that. And you can even include, especially if they don't know you that well, if you're at a big school, you should send them your resume. You should send all your recommenders your resume, every single one, especially your college counselor. And you should tell them essentially what you want to highlight. If you go to a small school, like a very high-ranking private school or a small school where they know you, this probably is not as necessary, and you don't want to make it seem like you think they're incompetent, so just be a little careful there. But if you go to a public school, you should definitely be doing this. And even if you go to a small private school, definitely just tell your recommenders, like your faculty recommenders, what you want them to write about vaguely. So again, this is where it comes to the importance of the spike, is that I got a very mediocre score in my extracurriculars, but I got a decent score in my academics, and then my personal was, basically I found out a 2+ is a rank below what they give to people who essentially are like on track to win the Nobel Prize. Like if little Greta were to apply to Harvard, she would get a 1. So obviously I didn't get a 1. I'm not that impressive and I never will be, but I got a 2. So that really helped me, and I really think that's what got me in. Just looking at the notes and the evidence. So try to push up your achievement in one category. And again, this can just be a category. This is kind of a subset of giving yourself a spike. But again, my spike wasn't really, it wasn't specific to an academic subject. It was just within this scoring. So your spike can be within the scoring if you feel like you don't have a spike. However, one easy way to get your academics up is a spike. Or in your extracurriculars. There's so many different ways to do it. Or in your athletics if you want to get recruited. I mean, you get it. Would be to not underestimate the interview, because again, this is dependent on the school you go to. However, as you can see, it was very dependent for me. It's very dependent for Harvard. They really pay a lot of attention to it. They really care about their alumni. I will have a video on how to prepare for interviews, because the other thing that was funny about this, secret, oh my gosh, Chingu drama, I did not even want to go to Harvard. Oh my goodness. I wanted to go to Yale, and I was only applying to Harvard because I had an extra slot on my school list, so I did not prepare for the interview at all, and I really should have. I actually remember I was taking the subway to go to my interview, and that's when I Googled like a list of Harvard clubs, and I memorized them on the train. Honestly, such a crazy play. Don't be like me. Prepare. You don't have to think about this for another few months. But if you're applying early, this is going to be coming to you in November, which is sooner than you think. So definitely get started on thinking about that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really quickly before we end, I just wanted to announce the giveaways. No, the winners for last week's giveaway. So there were 2 giveaways. One was a secondary one on the video that actually kind of blew up. So thank you for everyone. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I think it's at 13,000 views right now, which is so crazy for me. Oh my goodness. So anyway, on that one, I just said to comment if you agree that JYP is kind of nuts. So we have that comment here. Thank you to MG213. You win. Your comment really made me laugh. This is so accurate. I cannot stress how accurate this is. I'm just imagining him with the sweet dreams and the wedding dress. It's so good. What you did with this comment is fantastic. So you win, as well as Flavia Fortes, whatever the rest of that is. So my 2 biases and Stray Kids are Changbin and Han. So I think I kind of confused people because I said stage presence, which is true. And I think the best people for stage presence are rappers. And these are the 2 primary rappers in SKZ. That being said, Hyunjin, also love him. His stage presence. Him and Felix have really good dancing stage presence along with Lino. I don't know. There's a lot going on. There's too much to choose. But I have to be loyal to my rappers. But Hyunjin also was really good at rapping. So, it was hard. He's definitely, they're all equal to me. Everyone in Stray Kids is, my bias, basically. I'm sorry there were no K-pop references this week. I couldn't figure out where to put it. So, instead, if you can leave me a comment, I don't really care even what it's about. Just make me laugh. Because I get a lot of comments on my videos. I try to respond. A lot of them are advice-oriented, which, again, is fine. But, it's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? So, if you can leave me a comment that just is entertaining. I don't care what you talk about. Just make it entertaining. You can talk about me. You can talk about yourself. You could talk about anything. You can talk about Stray Kids. You can talk about K-pop. I don't know, J-pop, C-pop, whatever the heck you want to talk about. Just say something funny and entertaining, because sometimes I go through these. I spend a lot of time responding to the commenters because obviously I appreciate what y'all do for me. But sometimes I need a break. So help me take a break. Help me help you. Leave me a funny comment. and I will enter you into a giveaway. Or no, forget entering. Whichever ones make me laugh will win. So anyway, congratulations to last week's giveaway winners. Please message me and email me. My email is in my channel description, and I will give you your choice of giveaway winning. Everyone, make sure to enter. Very helpful information, and it's free. Okay, see you next time.